Did you know that you can't lead people if you're not willing to be honest with them? Leadership is not telling people what they want to hear. Leadership is being honest with someone you're responsible for, even if you think it might offend them. Doesn't mean you're a jerk, doesn't mean you're harsh, means you're honest. I read a study this week. Over 60% of performance reviews filled out by managers are tweaked and adjusted so as not to create conflict in the relationship. What a total waste of time, right? It's like, if you can't be honest with me here, what are we doing, right? And they ask why. They're like, if I was honest with their performance, it would either create conflict with me and the employee or reflect badly on my leadership with the one above me, so I'm just going to fudge it and pretend everything's okay here. Isn't that crazy? Paul could have been like, I don't want to be harsh with these guys because they may not like me, and God may realize that they're not doing very good and hold that against me. So I'm gonna give them all 10s, and maybe God will miss it, and maybe they'll like me. That's not Paul. Paul is willing to take the risk of saying things so as to hopefully cultivate humility in their heart. And while Paul can't take responsibility for their response, Paul can take responsibility for his actions. Are you willing to be honest with those you lead? How about this? Are you willing to confront overconfidence and misplaced self-assurance with honest assessment? This is the mark of a good coach, right? It's like players come in and they have an overestimation of their abilities, unable to see all of their shortcomings and how it jams up the whole dynamic of the team. And it's the coach's job to tell them, hey, this is where you have problems and this is what you need to work on, and I'm not going to play you until you fix those things. If the coach submitted to the overconfident and misplaced self-assurance of the player, he not only prevents the player from learning and inhibits the player from growing, he kneecaps the success of the rest of the team by letting someone who isn't very good play in a role that needs somebody to be better than they are. How about this? Are you willing to bruise self-esteem and puncture artificially inflated self-estimation for the sake of helping those you're leading see reality? Now, this is where the sermon gets really controversial. I mean, no, we give people blue ribbons. We adjust entire grading structures in our government school systems so as to ensure that no one feels offended or left behind, because we can't leave a kid behind. You know how you leave a kid behind? Let me tell you. You leave a kid behind when you tell him he's fine when he's not. That's how you leave a kid behind. You know how you hurt a kid? You know how you fail a kid? You fail a kid when you fail to fail them if they're failing. This isn't hard to see. It's like, why are we graduating 90% of kids in school when the proficiency tests are showing less than 30% proficiencies in all grade-specific proficiency tests, math, science? This is crazy. That's not the point of the sermon. The point here is you can't be a good leader. I mean, it's a good point to make, and it'd be fun to talk about. The point of the sermon is you can't lead people well if you're not willing to be honest with where they're at. When we fail to fail kids in academics, we're actually failing them for life. Part of failing is part of learning. And sometimes it's the job of those in charge or those who are in leadership to say, hey, we set the parameters up. You failed to meet those expectations. Here's how you failed. Here's how you can grow and get better. You don't get stronger muscles unless you push your muscles to failure and fatigue, which obviously I don't do very often, but I've heard it in theory. Stuck my chest out here. I heard that once. Are you willing to confront stupidity and arrogance for the sake of wisdom? And are you willing to not be liked for the sake of leading well? You're like, Josh, where are you getting all this? Well, let's look at the Bible here. That might help. Chapter 4, we'll start here in verse 7. For who makes you different from anyone else? What do you have that you did not receive? And if you did receive it, why do you boast as though you did not? Now, this might not make sense. We're kind of jumping in mid-thought here, but listen to how Paul is saying this thing. And listen to the tone of his voice. What's he saying? For who makes you different from anyone else? What's he saying? What makes you think you're so special? Okay. Said every good coach in the world. 2, what do you have that you did not receive? And if you did receive it, why do you boast as though you did not? What's he saying? You think you got here on your own? You think you're a self-made man, a self-made woman? Why are you pretending that you didn't receive the things that you did receive that got you where you're at, as if you got there on your own without receiving anything from anybody else? You follow that? He's trying to point out to them how utterly dependent they've been on other people for any of their success, and they're having the audacity to take credit for it themselves. He's essentially saying, who do you think you are? Hey everybody, hope you found that helpful. If you would like to watch the sermon that clip came from, you can go here, check it out. As well, if you'd like to watch more Bible teaching, you can go to my YouTube channel. And if you would like more free resources for your family, your marriage, and how to be a stronger man, you can go to strongmannation.com. Check it out.